Today is the last day of this October 1981 7 Days Hashin, and we will read and comment on a koan, again involving Bodhidharma, taken from the Mumonkan. The particular book we're using is Zen Comments on the Mumonkan by Shibayama Roshi. And the koan is entitled Bodhidharma and Peace of Mind. This is the koan. Bodhidharma sat in zazen facing the wall. The second patriarch, who had been standing in the snow, cut off his arm and said, "Your disciple's mind is not yet at peace. I beg you, my teacher, please give it peace." Bodhidharma said, "Bring the mind to me, and I'll set it at rest." Second patriarch said, "I've searched for the mind, and it is finally unattainable." In another translation it says, "I can't take hold of it," or "I have not found it. I've looked for it everywhere. I haven't found it." And Bodhidharma said, "There, I've thoroughly set it at rest for you." There's a commentary by Mumon, who's collected these koans, and he says, "The broken-toothed old foreigner proudly came over 100,000 miles across the sea. This was as if he were raising waves where there's no wind." Toward his end, Bodhidharma could enlighten only one disciple, and even he was crippled. Quite a succession. Li Shansanro does not even know 4 characters. And the poem, Mumon's poem, coming from the west and directly pointing. This great affair was caused by the transmission. The troublemaker who created a stir in Zen circles is, after all, you. Meaning here, probably Bodhidharma. Why'd you come over and cause all this trouble? In reading from Shibayama's text, we're leaving off many paragraphs, sentences, bits of sentences. If you want to read the whole thing, you can get the book, although I understand it's not available right now. Reason for not reading it all: every teacher teaches differently, uses different words and so forth. We've already talked about Bodhidharma, and we also mentioned something about this first encounter between Bodhidharma and Eka. Eka was the name that, Eka is a Japanese name, which was given, obviously in Chinese, to what is now called the second patriarch. Second patriarch Eka was at first called Shinko. In his early childhood, he was a boy with unusual inspiration. He was particularly fond of reading. One day, while reading a Buddhist text, he had a great insight which made him decide to become a Buddhist monk. He then studied Mahayana and Theravada Buddhism extensively and was already a middle-aged monk when the incident of the koan took place. So let's pick this. The part in this book by this Tripitaka master, Hua, in the Six Patriarchs Dharma Jewel Platform Sutra. I don't know to what extent I reported this interview correctly. Of course, this itself is legend, but it's still quite interesting. All we read is already legend. History and legend and mythology have this in common. They're all the past. This Dharma master, Shen Quan, that was his Chinese name, explained the sutras. After listening to the sutra, Bodhidharma asked, "Dharma master, what are you doing?" "I'm explaining sutras," Shen Quan replied. "Why are you explaining sutras?" "I'm teaching people to end birth and death." "I'm teaching people to end birth and death." "Oh," said Bodhidharma, "exactly how do you do that?" "In the sutra which you explain, the words are black and the paper is white. How does this teach people to end birth and death?" Dharma Master Shen Kuang had nothing to say. How did he teach people to end birth and death? He fumed in silence. Then, even though heavenly maidens rained down flowers and the earth gave forth golden lotuses, Dharma Master Shen Kuang got angry. Couldn't be put more beautifully. And Hua here comments, "This is what I mean when I say that Buddha Dharma existed in China, but it was as if it were not there at all." Well, you know, anger doesn't just vanish with the arrival of Buddha Dharma or Bodhidharma. How does it vanish? I think it's one of the most frequently asked questions. People really grapple with this. And maybe there's something wrong in the way one grapples with it. Trying to undo it, trying to deny it, or trying to justify it, or immediately reciting the repentance gatha. Then the repentance gatha becomes important, and one hasn't seen the anger. Completely in silent awareness, in which there is no judge, and no controller. The controller himself or herself is the anger. Can this be seen directly? Not repeated in words. It must be seen directly, and it can be seen. And then what happens? We'll skip the bead episode. We've mentioned that, where Bodhidharma's teeth were knocked out. Down here he comes back to it again. He says, in his great anger, Dharma Master knocked out two of Bodhidharma's teeth. he explained, you slandered the Dharma. What does it mean to slander the Dharma? Anybody can say that. What is the Dharma? Can it be slandered? Buddha once said, if you spit drops right back on you. In this case, you have to spit this way. Law of gravity still applies, at least on this earth. He thought he had won a great victory because the barbarian put forth no opposition. Remember, he swallowed those teeth, or else there would have been 3 years of no rain in China. That wasn't what he had come for, to cut the rain out for 3 years. But not long after, the ghost of impermanence, wearing a high hat, paid a call on Master Sheng Kuang. Your life ends today, said the ghost. King Yama, the king of the dead, has sent me to escort you. The Master Sheng Kuang said, what? Must I die? After all, remember, he had taught people how to end death and birth. But now, hey, must I die? When I speak the Dharma, flowers fall from the heavens and the earth bubbles forth golden lotuses. And yet, I have not ended birth and death? I thought I had. You know, one lives in one's thoughts and imaginations and illusions, which are manifold, gross and subtle. Tell me, he asks this, what was it called? The ghost of impermanence. Tell me, is there a person in this world who has ended birth and death? There is, came the reply. Who? Asked Sheng Kuang. Tell me, and I'll follow him and study the way. He's that black-faced bhikshu whose teeth you just knocked out. King Yama bows to him every day. Please, old ghost, speak to King Yama on my behalf. I want to follow that bhikshu. I'm determined to end birth and death. Can't you allow me some more time? All right, said the ghost. Since you're sincere, King Yama will wait. Dharma Master Sheng Kuang was delighted. He was so quick to rush after Bodhidharma that he forgot to thank the ghost of impermanence. In fact, he even forgot to put on his shoes. Again, there's someone without shoes. We'll leave it here and we'll go back to Shibayama. In order to have the fundamental emancipation, he writes about this Sheng Kuang or Kuan Sheng, whatever. He went to see Bodhidharma and was finally given the Dharma sanction. Later he lived among the poor, hiding his brilliance. Though it is said that he was over 100 years old when he died, no definite record of him is left. In the koan, Master Mumon simply states in the first 2 short sentences, Bodhidharma sat in zazen facing the wall. The second patriarch, who had been standing in the snow, cut off his arm and said, and now here comes the story of how he cut off his arm. Shibayama says, let me quote here the original sentences of the Dentoroku, Transmission of the Lamp, which give us an impressive description of how Shinko showed his eagerness in seeking the truth and how he was first permitted to have Zanzen, which is Doksan, with Bodhidharma. He, Shinko, went over there to Shorinji, to the monastery, while the cave supposedly is 2 hours walk up above, and day and night beseeched Bodhidharma for instruction. The master always sat in zazen facing the wall and paid no attention to his entreaties. On the evening of December 9, heaven sent down a heavy snow. Shinko stood erect and unmoving. Toward daybreak, the snow reached above his knees. The master had pity on him and said, "You've been long standing in the snow. What are you seeking?" Shinko, in bitter tears, said, "I beseech you, O Master, with your compassion, pray open your gate of Dharma and save all of us beings." And the Master said, "The incomparable truth of the Buddhas can only be attained by practicing what cannot be practiced, and by bearing the unbearable. How can you, with your little virtue, your little wisdom, and with your easy and self-conceited mind, dare to aspire to attain the true teaching? It's only so much labor lost." Listening to the Master's admonition, Shinko secretly took out his sharp knife, himself cut off his left arm, placed it in front of the Master. The Master told him, "Buddhas, when they first seek after the truth, give no heed to their bodies for the sake of Dharma. You have now cut off your arm before me. I have seen sincerity in your seeking." There's a real tradition to this now in Zen, that you have to give evidence of your sincerity. Beware of emulation, particularly not cutting off arms. Or to have this show of sincerity, which can become a real conditioning, a show of sincerity, a show of eagerness, which is, I'm told so many monasteries, they expect this to almost formalistically, ritualistically to happen before a monk is taken in or somebody. You have to sit out there for a week, bent over your rucksack, or whatever it is. Both parties playing out the roles. And the play is over, then you're taken in. Maybe something does happen. Maybe nothing happens in this case. One just waits out the days, the assigned days. You can't produce sincerity. You can't produce urgency. You can't produce yearning. It's there. And if it isn't there, you don't come here. Because you may come here because you have ideas of what you may get. But where do these ideas come from? They come out of a deep sense of inner shallowness or meaninglessness of one's life. Deep feelings of incompleteness, inadequacy, which one wants to be free from or complete somehow or other. So one reads and then seeks out places and teaches. The Master gave him the name Eka. Shinko asked, "Is it possible to listen to Buddha Dharma?" The teaching, the Master replied, "The Buddha Dharma cannot be attained by following others." parenthesis here, Shibayama says, that is, one has to see directly into his own nature, into one's own nature. Shinko said, my mind is not yet at peace. I beg you, my teacher, please give it peace for me. Farther down, Shibayama says, the forms and the expression of asking may differ. Yet is this not the search that everyone must make, every human being? He says here, every man will say every human being. Through all ages, human beings have made this search even at the cost of their lives. It is not a personal desire entertained only by Shinko over 1,000 years ago. It's a good way of putting it, not just a personal desire. It's personal, it's very limited, has one's personal satisfaction and happiness in mind. But in truth, it's a universal yearning for universal understanding and love and unity and wholeness. Shibayama continues, not only Zen, but any religion in the world must have the reason for its existence in the guidance it gives to those who pursue this quest. And who is the giver of the guidance? Is there true understanding? Or is the guidance according to letters and scriptures and holy books? Holy images, holy symbols. By making this search, one may finally be led to the realization that every effort is in vain. Did you expect that, to hear that? By making this search, one may finally be led to the realization that every effort is in vain. True peace of mind, however, can be obtained only when one is personally awakened to the stark, naked fact that every effort is ultimately in vain. Effort meaning every selfish motive. I must have that. I don't want that. I want to be free of that, but full of that. This is how we start making our effort. This is how we start, most of us. So much despair, so much disappointment and frustration in the wake of this. At first during one's everyday life, and then in Sesshin. Shibayama continues, seek, struggle, and despair. He who has never wept all night in struggle and despair will not know the happiness of Satori. Don't put time limits to it. Then one will make oneself stay up and weep all night. You're laughing, but these things do happen. We're so easily influenced by images, what we've read, what we've heard. So easily do we assume a role. It's so natural to do this. So subtle. We love the theater. We love being actors and actresses. We also love being victims. always a role to get away from what needs to be done. See into the truth of oneself. This moment, as it is. That's where you start. No place else. There's an excellent metaphor made by a Zen master. To try to find a man on an uninhabited island may prove fruitless. There's this uninhabited space, looking for the owner. Once, however, it is definitely established that there is no man there, the island comes into the discoverer's possession. This is international law. I wonder about this metaphor. It is universal law, effective through the ages. The whole universe now comes into his possession. Does it come into one's possession? And I ask, who is the possessor? No possessor. Then oneself is all that, without any thought of ownership. It's just a metaphor. Of course, metaphors only go so far. My mind is not yet at peace. I beg you, my teacher, please give it peace. This is the great doubt penetrating Eka's whole being. This is Shibayama talking. The whole universe, and he himself was just this one great doubt. Where is this mind? What is this mind? Or who am I? What is Mu? First one begins with all the stuff that comes up. One person said in Doksan, I never realized there was so much shit. And this is where one works. Not calling it shit. Not calling it anything. But working right there. It's who? It's Mu. No separation and no clinging, no wallowing. Nothing, only who. And it may vanish. May something be something else, and that too may vanish. On its own. And then, what's who? What's Mu? Who am I? I've looked for it. I can't find it. And then comes the thought, but it can't be just this nothing. There must be something. And then there's agitation again, isn't there? That's what thought does. Thought, I don't know if one can make this generalization. Thought either agitates or it lulls. I'm not talking right now of scientific thought investigating things or the thought at work. But this thought and sitting about, thinking about oneself, or when there is a moment, no self, nothing, then is that all? Is this, hey, this is nothing. Is that what I wanted? I don't want nothing. So there's agitation again. Or else slipping off into dreamland. With all its many facets. So either agitation, restlessness, or else lulling oneself back to sleep. Doesn't need to be the sleep in the bed. It can be waking sleep. No awareness, no attention. Just caught upness and entanglement in thoughts and all that comes from thought. Shibayama, the whole universe and he himself was just as one great doubt. Only those who break through the extremity of this sheer darkness can have the great joy of being the true master of the whole universe. Who's the master? It's used often in Zen, and you can be your own master. One must be careful with words because words have power. Can give a new image very quickly, very easily. Like mushrooms after the rain, they grow up. Bring your mind here and I will set it at rest. Where is the mind that is not at peace? Shibayama continues. Who is it that is seeking? Is the mind square or round, white or red? Does it exist or not? Well, one goes deeper than those questions. Not knowing. Really not knowing, not resorting to concepts. Because they will obstruct one. The mind does exist, but it is so absolutely affirmative that it is at the same time negative, is it not? Wow. If it does exist, bring it here. Bring me that mind. Shinko must have been pushed down into the abyss of despair by this demand of Bodhidharma. He is driven to the wall. People mention this, I'm facing a wall. I'm just against the wall. You know what the wall is? It's you. There's no other wall. Because there's the Zendo wall. But you're not talking about that. One person said, I built up a brick wall right in front of myself. That was realization how he was doing it. Just to say I'm sitting in front of a wall, well then one has a little excuse again for not getting on with it. What is this wall? If you don't call it a wall, what is it? It's something very indescribable. It's real enough. What is it? That's what you must ask, not give it a name. Moo-hoo. Intellect, Shibayama continues, was of no avail. Reasoning was no help. He was not aware whether he was alive or dead. He couldn't even utter a moaning cry. This must have been Shinko's actual situation. Koan simply states, Bodhidharma said, bring the mind to me, and I'll set it at rest. Second Patriarch said, I've searched for the mind, and it's finally unattainable. I don't know. Shibayama continues, those who have not themselves had the experience of searching will naturally interpret these sentences literally, will be unable to read between the lines, the spiritual agony of actual search. They will consequently fail to realize that there's an interval of painful dark nights for weeks, months, or even years, if one counts time. Between Bodhidharma's demand, bring your mind to me and I'll set it at rest, and Shinko's answer, I've searched for the mind. I can't find it. Oh, it's unattainable. It's finally unattainable. Quotes Master Rinzai here, Years ago, when I was not enlightened, I was in sheer darkness altogether. This is what is said to people who start working on a koan. Can this questioning, this mu-who, come out of darkness and go into darkness? Not this little candle light of knowing, or the neon light of knowing. I'll skip several paragraphs. I've searched for the mind and it's finally unattainable. This reply comes from the experience of plunging into another dimension. It's the cry of a person who has experienced that the whole universe has collapsed, the Iron Mountain has crumbled. Well, it can be so, but it needn't be so. And don't wait for the Iron Mountain to crumble. Another. The box breaking open. One person said, we're all in boxes. Are we? Why are we in boxes? If I'm in a box, I want to know why I am in a box. See that box. I must see it. And in the seeing, is there a box? Is the seeing a box? Or is it vast not knowing? Bodhidharma's response, of course, when Eka said, I can't find it anywhere, can't attain it, can't lay a hold on it. Bodhidharma said, there, I've put it for rest, put it at rest for you. In other words, before you ask the question, is that all? It's at rest. Buddha once said, the monkey mind doesn't stop. When it stops, that's enlightenment. That's why sometimes people are asked, can you put this who, this mu, or can it be asked before even a thought arises? Can there be, for people working on shikantaza, can there be attention and awareness before even a thought arises? We will leave Shibayama at this point and just read just a few paragraphs from the teaching, Zen teaching of Wangpo, Obakun in Japanese, on the transmission of mind, translated by John Blofeld. The Master said, only when your minds cease dwelling upon anything whatsoever will you come to an understanding of the true way of Zen. I may express it thus. The way of the Buddhas flourishes in a mind utterly freed from conceptual thought processes, while discrimination between this and that gives birth to a legion of demons. Which doesn't mean, as one person said, doesn't mean, this person said, I still see, I still hear. Do I have to be blind and dumb? No, but how does one see? Through the word, through the concept, through what one remembers about this tree or this person? One person, as he or she put it, as soon as there's noise, I say there's an ambulance going down Arnold Park, East Avenue. Is that how it is, or is it just that? We don't do Zazen with blindfolded and with earplugs. We may take our rest between periods that way to get some sleep. But in sitting, the eyes are partly open, the ears are open. Can every pore of the body be open? Can there be nothing that is closed up and sealed off, repressed, defended, protected? Can there be total vulnerability, like that of an open flower? Finally, Wang Po continues, remember that from the first to the last, not even the smallest grain of anything attainable or graspable has ever existed or ever will exist. Graspable, you're meaning with a mind. Doesn't mean that a mountain doesn't exist. But the word mountain, the name, and the idea it'll exist forever, well, look at Mount St. Helens. Even a huge mountain can change its shape instantly, or almost instantly. And that burst, that collapse of that mountain was no illusion. Some 60 people were killed, buried under the debris. The questioner continues, to whom did the patriarch silently transmit the Dharma, referring to Bodhidharma? And Wang Po says, no Dharma was transmitted to anybody. Questioner, then why did the second patriarch ask Bodhidharma for the transmission of the mind? And Huang Po says, if you hold that something was transmitted, you imply that the second patriarch reached mind by seeking. But no amount of seeking can ever lead to mind, with a capital M here. So we talk of only transmitting mind to you. If you really get something, you will find yourself back in the wheel of life and death. The Buddha is saying after his enlightenment, I attained nothing. From complete, unexcelled enlightenment, and this is why it is called complete, unexcelled enlightenment. The questioner continues, did the Buddha pierce right through the primordial darkness of ignorance? Huangpo, yes, the primordial darkness is the sphere in which every Buddha achieves enlightenment. The darkness is where enlightenment is achieved. Again, we're using words. Thus, Huangpo continues, the very sphere in which karma arises, karma being anger, greed, madness, jealousy, rivalry, ambition. The very sphere in which karma arises may be called a bodhimandala. A bodhimandala being a sanctuary for gaining enlightenment, says the footnote. So often have we said, Dharma gates beyond measure. This is oneself from moment to moment. A vow to penetrate, a vow to see, to understand. And in understanding is liberation. Nothing else. Wherever your foot may fall, you are still within that sanctuary for enlightenment, though it is nothing graspable. I assure you that one who comprehends the truth of, quote, nothing to be attained, is already seated in the sanctuary where he will gain enlightenment. One of the few times where Huangpo goes along with his word enlightenment, at other times he'll cut it right off. He says, it's only because you think of enlightened and unenlightened that you're all obstructed and cut in knots, tied in knots. At another point, the questioner says, but how can we prevent ourselves from falling into the error of making distinctions between this and that? Mind you, the distinction is not the problem. It's this I want, but that I don't. This I'm going to grasp and clutch and defend to the hilt. That one I'll ignore, disown, debate it, say it isn't so, or just repress it altogether. So how can we prevent ourselves from falling into the error of making distinctions between this and that? And Huangpo answers by realizing that though you eat the whole day through, no single grain has passed your lip. That a day's journey has not taken you a single step forward. Because where is there to go? Also by uniformly abstaining from such notions as self and other. Do not permit the events of your daily lives to bind you, but never withdraw yourselves from them. Do not permit the events of your daily lives to bind you, but neither withdraw yourselves from them. It's no simple matter. It's a matter of great attention, loving attention. and awareness. All-embracing awareness. Only by acting thus can you earn the title of a liberated one. Avoid the error of thinking in terms of past, present, and future. The past has gone, the present is a fleeting moment, and the future has not yet come. As a matter of fact, they all just exist in this thinking mind. We're not talking about psychologically what was so wonderful yesterday or what was so horrible yesterday. What I want to get tomorrow, what was so beautiful yesterday, or what I want to get right now, or what I'm afraid of may happen tomorrow because it happened yesterday. Avoid the error of thinking in terms of past, present, and future. Present has gone, the past has gone, the present is a fleeting moment. If you're really with it, you don't even call it presence. If you're with it, you're not thinking, you're with it. The present, this famous sentence these days, we must be in the here and now. That's a big fat concept. It's an idea which sounds beautiful. What does it really mean to be in the here and now? It means there is no past. Controlling one, influencing one, pushing one, blindly, unconsciously. Which means thoroughgoing awareness. When you practice Zazen, Wangpo continues, sit in the proper position, stay perfectly tranquil, and do not permit the least movement of your minds to disturb you. He doesn't say don't permit the least movement of your minds, but don't permit the least movement of your minds to disturb you. And as to the proper position, each person must find his or her own proper position, going along with asymmetries, idiosyncrasies of the body, or temporary things like broken feet or whatever. Not to make a rigid thing out of the right posture. Then there's an image again, and one tries to conform to this image. To experiment with it and to find the right posture in which there's the least tension and the most composure, and the possibility for a gathering of energies. Energy, it's not many. This alone is what is called liberation. Be diligent, be diligent. We'll end here for today. The 4 vows.
Om